Welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. Actually, I do help you spend your wine dollars wisely because I don't want to see anybody waste their hard-earned money on a mediocre bottle of wine. This might be my last episode of Washington Wines. August is the second Washington wine month of the year. March was the original, then it went to August. I've said that a couple of times. But it's always a good way to promote Washington wines. We understand it, we get it, all that. I did not embrace August for a long time because, well, hey, I thought one was enough. But, you know, after a while, you just have to say, okay, we're going to go with it. I love Washington wines. I love wines from all over the world. I know this is my home state. Washington does some fantastic wines, and I've said it over and over again, and I'm saying this now because it might be my last episode. Washington is one of the few states, one of the few areas in the world that can do a lot of varietals really well. And the big wineries in Washington State, of course, are Hogue, Chateau Ste. Michelle, Precept has a lot of wineries under their umbrella, but basically Ste. Michelle and Precept are the two biggest winery owners in the state of Washington. But I know last episode I talked about new wineries. You're thinking 2004 for Sparkman. I got another Sparkman wine here. You think, well, that isn't that new. That's 12 years old. Well, I mean, a lot of these guys like Rob Griffin just a couple of years ago celebrated his 30th year as a winery. Ste. Michelle's been around a long time. Columbia, which was started by David Lake, has been around for a long time. So a lot of these are new and upcoming wineries, or they actually have established themselves as very legitimate and respected wineries in the state of Washington. I have three here that fall in that category: Cougar Crest, Sparkman, and Baer Winery. All have really established themselves as solid wineries in the state of Washington. And there's a lot of new ones coming up, a lot of wineries that are kind of breaking in and making a statement for themselves. For instance, Rain Van started out and got huge reviews. Now it's hard to even get their wines. There's just a lot of wineries like that where people step in and really utilize the terroir, get good fruit, and make great wines. We're going to get started off with Cougar Crest Dedication 9 Red Wine 2012, Walla Walla Valley. Cougar Crest out of Walla Walla Valley has really made themselves well known. I got a little cheat sheet here because there was so much I wanted. They actually were established in 2001. Their winemaker is Deborah Hansen. And they have this dedication wine because their daughter almost was killed, I believe in a car accident, I'm not positive. But the Dombecker Children's Care Hospital in Portland, Oregon, saved her life. So they've taken some of the proceeds from the sale of this particular wine, and they give it to the Dornbecker Foundation. So it's a good cause. But more than that, I've always been impressed with this dedication red wine. This particular one is 38% Syrah, 32% Tempranillo, 14% Merlot, 13% Cab, 3% Petit Verdot, and 2% Grenache. Or as we would say in the wine world, a kitchen sink red. Washington, I believe, now has 13 AVAs. I say I believe because I haven't really looked recently. The newest one being the Rocks AVA, the Rocks of Milton Freewater. That is also in Oregon. That is where it actually is at because they share kind of the border of Oregon and Washington. I believe it is a Washington AVA also. Washington and Oregon also share parts of the Columbia Valley, Columbia Gorge AVA. So this is Cougar Crest Dedication Red. This rolls in at $20. All right, let's see what we get on the nose. The color on this is not super dark. I'm just kind of gonna, it's semi-dark. You can probably see that a little bit. Right away, I'm getting stuff on the nose, even without sticking my nose in the glass, which is always encouraging. We always like that when it has a good bouquet, good aromatics. We like that a lot. I get bark, licorice, a little bit of chocolate, definitely dark cherries. Get a little bit of plum action going on. But very, very aromatic. I love that in a red wine. I love that in any wine, really. But I have been surprised so many times by wines that they have nothing on the nose, but when you put them in your mouth, they just explode. And that's always a mystery to me, how that is. But it happens more often than you would think. Let's see what we get on the palate. First off, I want to mention this has good acidity, nice and fresh, which immediately, makes it a good food wine. Acid is always good food. Now you might say, well, what is acidity? Well, that's when it lifts the fruit. It gives it a brightness that you don't normally get in wines that lack that. They tend to be a little goopier. They tend to be a little darker. Some wines have good acidity, but the fruit is so big that it doesn't stand out. In this particular case, the fruit is not dominating the acidity. The acidity is slightly dominating the fruit. You get the licorice, you get that bark element, you get a lot of plum. It almost feels like I've dumped a little acid in some plum jam and I'm eating plums, or I'm biting on a plum that has a little bit of, more, maybe the plum is ripe, but there's acid there. And that's a good thing with food. By itself, maybe not so much. And then right at the back, I'm getting chocolate. Chocolate definitely comes through on the finish. This wine is a touch thin to me. The acid is there. I like the complexity. I like the flow of it across the palate, but it is a touch thin. It just doesn't quite go there. But I like the spice on the back end. There's a lot of positive things about this wine. We don't usually, I guess sometimes even, Gamay out of Burgundy, southern Burgundy, Beaujolais, can be light but intense at the same time. This is light and not so intense on the palate. Okay, let's put it this way. If it was $12 and under, I'd be happy. I'd be like, okay, I'm stoked. This is a pretty good wine for that. This is $20. Okay, when you're spending $20, you want something there. I like it. I think it's well made, but it lacks something in the mid palate and the finish. I'm gonna have to go C plus B minus on that wine. 12 is a great vintage too. I'm really surprised about that. But this would be a good food wine if you had burgers, hot dogs, that sort of thing, taco salad, something like that. This would be a good wine. But like I said, you can find a lot of great wines, $12 and under, in the same sort of flavor profile. I don't know. Yeah, C plus B minus. Let's move on. Sparkman Cellars 2014 Kindred Bordeaux style blend. Oh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Wow, where'd that come from? Of course, I did just mow the grass not too long ago. Let's give it a little rinse. We talked a little bit about Chris Sparkman on the last episode. Started out in the restaurant business, wanted to see more of his family, had a couple of girls, so they decided they were going to open a wine shop. Then Charles Smith talked him into starting a winery, and now he's a very successful winery in the state of Washington. As you know, it cracks me up, as all winemakers say, they can hardly wait till they make money. Sparkman does pretty good. So this is $25, a little bit more than the Cougar Crest, and this is a label. All right. I haven't gotten any suggestions yet on episode 300. Kind of disappointed. Some of my friends that watch these didn't step up to the plate and just make a comment. It's easy to do on YouTube. Just hit comment and make a comment. Sometimes you have to subscribe, which is okay. I need some more subscribers. Just make a comment, or you can email me at stan@blucid.com, which I think is on the YouTube channel. And just tell me what you think I should do for episode 300. Let's see what's going on. Now, the color on this is a lot darker. You can see that. Hopefully you can see. A lot darker than the Dedication Red. Bordeaux style blend, so it's Cab Merlot, Cab Franc, and whatever else Chris decides to throw in there. As mentioned before, Sparkman, I believe, started in 2004, and his current winemaker started in 2011. And in 2011, it was declared one of the shooting star, or most, what's the word they used, up-and-coming stars of Washington State. So this nose is a lot deeper. I'm getting like lavenders and rose petal. Get a little bit of licorice. I'm getting currants and cherries, dark currants, dark cherries. There's an interesting like baking spice component that's just kind of slightly there. Let's see what we get on the palate. Like the nose on this one. This is a fairly deep wine, and I think this is a classic example of good fruit with acidity, where the fruit is over the top of the acidity, but the acidity kind of kicks up its heels and makes that fruit kind of, you know, get up there into your palate a little bit. I get dark cherries, dark currants, and a lot of white pepper. There's a lot of white pepper, especially on the back of the mid palate into the finish. There's an interesting underlying bark and tobacco component that's there. This has an excellent structure. This sticks to your palate. This hits you, but it stays balanced, and I like that part about it. It is also a good food wine, but it has that delicious factor that you could sit there and drink this wine all by itself and enjoy it immensely, but with food it'd be even better. So I'm talking rib steaks, I'm talking spaghetti, red pasta sauce. It's so funny now you have to say that. Back in my day, spaghetti was spaghetti, but now you got to say pasta with red sauce, pasta with white. So it'd be good with spaghetti and meatballs. It'd be a great wine, but by itself, it has that nice structure. And what I like about this wine, one of the things I know about this wine is it will age 5 to 8 years and get even better, which is a cool thing for 25 bucks. A little bit of grit on the tannins on the finish. Like that wine. So I'm saying the Cougar Crest, 12 bucks would be, you know, get a much better grade. For 25 bucks, $5 more than the Cougar Crest, you get a 10 times better wine. Now, nothing against Cougar Crest. I love their wines. I love their Viognier especially. But this is a much better wine, better structure. A lot of things going on. I'd be willing to spend $5 more to get this wine easily. The Kindred. I'm going to go B+, A- for this wine. I think it's an excellent job. Good job, Chris, and your winemaker. His name is escaping me. Lynn. His last name's Lynn, I believe. I just said it on my last episode. Episode 297, by the way. I have 2 more to go, and then I'm into episode 300, so I want some suggestions for 300. Like that Sparkman wine. Let's move on. This is kind of a sad tale. Baer Winery. So this is a Baer Winery Arctos 2012. So we have the same vintage. What did I say the vintage on the Kindred? Yeah, 14. 14 and 12, excellent vintages. Although I've tasted more wines from Oregon that were really good from 14 than I have from Washington so far. So I should ask some questions around to winemakers about 14, what they feel about this. This is a 65% Cab, 15% Merlot, 10% Cabernet Franc, and 10% Petit Verdot. Now this is a Baer Winery has gotten a ton of good press. I mean, from the Wine Spectator, the Wine Advocate, the Wine Enthusiast. Baer Winery really shot off in the wine world. They started again in 2000. They're up to 3,500 cases a year. Now, the guy who started all this, Lance Baer, and this is the sad part. Every time I read this, every time I research this on the web when I'm doing a Baer wine, he died in 2007, and he was only 39 years old. I've never seen the details of what happened, but that's just a sad, sad tale. Well, the family took over. They hired a consulting winemaker, Erica Orr, and they've really, really done well with this winery. They're up to 3,500 cases a year, which is a small production winery. But, you know, they've really done well with their wines. And this rolls in at $39. And so this is, you know, the most expensive. I don't consider $39 chump change. But if it's a worthy wine, I don't mind spending that if I want something special. So let's see what we get on the nose. Might notice I'm sniffling just a little bit. I don't have a cold. Just got done mowing the grass. It's kind of dry out there. Had to get the dandelions knocked down. But it doesn't affect my smell. I find that in this particular case, sometimes my nose becomes more acute. Lots of licorice on this. Lots of dark fruit. You're getting like black raspberry, black currant, dark cherry. There's a little bit of a sweet factor coming through, almost like a hard candy, like hard, you know, those hard cherry candies or hard black raspberry candies you get at Christmas, you know, they came in the tin. I love the chewy black raspberry ones. I love those. I don't have them so much anymore, but I used to love them when I was a kid. This has kind of that candied element coming through. A little bit of tobacco. Sorry, Eric Asimov, you can get tobacco on a wine. Otherwise, every wine critic I've ever known is wrong, and I know they're not. Just saying. I like Eric Asimov, love him. We have to have respect for the dude. I mean, he's big time in the wine world. But he made a comment one time that I just took exception to, and then he said, I believe, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but I read that he said, I don't understand this whole thing about tobacco on the nose. And he doesn't get into heavy, specific descriptions. But you know, I tell you what, I am in retail. I sell wine to people every day. They come and they read my signs. They love them. They love specific descriptors. And what it does is it helps them to understand what they're getting into. And yes, those things are there in a wine. Otherwise, we wouldn't spend all our time trying to find those things out. The beauty of wine is the yeast, the grapes, the winemaking process, all that affects it and gives it all these different aromatics. And you can get those things out of the wine. If you don't want to, that's fine. You just read the wine, oh, Stan likes it, I'm going to like it. Or, Eric likes it, I'm going to like it. You can go that direction, and that is perfectly cool. If you find a critic that you like, and you trust his palate, then go for it. But if, don't be intimidated. If you don't like something I don't care. Tell me, Stan, I didn't like it. It's okay. Back in my early days, yeah, I kind of like, but now I know, I understand. Palates are different, and, we all know that. So if you don't like something I don't like, it's okay. It's your palate. You have to understand what you like. Okay, so we got the nose on this, now let's see what we get on the palate. A little high on the alcohol. You get a little alcohol burn. Some of you might not like that. It says 14.5. It gives it that kind of licorice, that kirsch, sort of liqueur thing going on the palate. But it is intense. 10 times ramped up from the Sparkman wine. Right here. There we go. Whew, heavy stripe, grippy tannins. But what I like about this wine, it's meaty. It has intensity. There's almost like a eucalyptus characteristic coming through, although it's not eucalyptus, it's almost eucalyptus. It's intense, it's like, has a liqueur sort of element to it. I think there's a lot of you out there that might not like it, and there's a lot of you that are going to love it. It has great acidity, great fruit, good balance between the two. Alcohol's a little high for me. That may tone down. This is a 2012. I think you need to age it. This is a puppy. This is a baby. I think you need to age it another 5 to 6 years, and the alcohol and the fruit and the acidity will integrate a little bit better, and you won't get that spike of heat that comes through. Because I don't think it's inhibiting. I don't think it's a bad flaw in the wine. I just think it's obvious in this wine, and I can feel it. I'm warm right here. It's going down on my belly. My belly's getting warm. I get bark. I get red and black cherries on the palate. Intense tannins, but they're not chewy, but they're close to chewy on the finish. A little bit of chocolate up on the back of the mid palate. I get that on that. It's coming to life a little bit more right now, just from swirling it around. And I've had these open for about 3 or 4 hours. Buy this, age it for 5 years, and you're in for a treat. I'm going to go the same as I went on the Sparkman. It's 39 bucks. I have a deal running now down at the store. If you live in Friday Harbor, you might want to take advantage of it. I got it for 27 bucks right now. That's only for a limited time, then it's going to go back up to the regular price. But still, at 40 bucks, I think 5 years in your cellar, and you're going to be in for a real treat. I'm going to go A-, straight up A- on this wine. At first I thought the alcohol was going to be a flaw, but as it sat in my glass a little bit, it kind of integrated a little bit more. Yes, my stomach is warm, but the acid in this wine kind of makes up for that a little bit. So I'm going to go straight up A-. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.